Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 63. I'm your host, Millie Rouge, from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a YEG music production. Let's get into introducing our guests that we have on the show today. We have Becky from Bellhoss from Denver, Colorado. We have Jessie Grandmont from London, Ontario, represent your Canada. And we have NEZI from Brooklyn, New York. So welcome everybody. We're so happy to have you on the show today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to chat with me. So I have one very hard question to start it off. I want to know how your day has been going so far. Very complicated. So how is it, Jessie? And I know you're closer to me in Canada here. So what's it kind of like in London? What's kind of the situation been like for you?
I mean, it's good. We're in what they're calling phase 2 right now, where there's stuff open. And it's weird. I mean, I'm one of those people that's like used to quarantine life now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, nah, this is how it is. But I mean, it is what it is. I live right downtown in London, which it's not a huge city, but I live right downtown. So we kind of hear, you get like the peaceful walks, but I'm down by all the patios and stuff. So there's lots of commotion and stuff going on. But I don't know, for the most part, just kind of inside trying to find creative projects to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. I'm like, when this is all over, whenever that happens, I'm like, I don't want to go back to work. I enjoy being like this. It's going to be very hard. So Becky, how's it been in Denver? I've actually spoken with a few people from Denver on this show before, but I want to hear kind of your perspective of what it's like for you.
It's good. I saw my therapist in person for the first time in like 6 months this morning. That was wild.
Baby steps. Yeah,
that was wild. But I hate to be that guy, but I'm an extrovert, so I've been dying.
Yep.
Cool. So it's been a little rough. I actually just ran away. I'm from the LA area, like from Orange County in California. So I ran away to my parents for 2 weeks because I needed somewhere to run.
Yeah.
And I started roller skating outside. So just skating on the Strand is primo. But so I'm trying to figure out ways in which I can still keep that social distance with people, but like get more vitamin D and
absolutely.
Do that self-care thing.
I feel that because and I'm sure Jessie knows this too, but being in Canada, we only have these 2 months of nice weather and then it's completely gone. So we really soak it up and we're like, give me all the vitamin C because it's gone and it's just dark for basically 10 months. So we really take advantage of it.
Great. Good.
Yeah. So NEZI, I kind of want to know for you in Brooklyn, I know New York is a huge place. So I kind of want to know what it's been like for you.
So overall, just trying to keep the social distancing, like Becky said. I'm sure you all know that New York was a hot spot for that for a while. So I've just been trying to create, not try to burn myself out because it's easy to kind of think that, we're quarantined, you have more time, create. But it's also no, we have to find our balance. This is the time to practice self-care as artists. Because sometimes we're always on the go. Yeah. So overall, I've been maintaining pretty good. Just trying to stay sane. I've been good though.
No, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad you're all kind of doing things to keep yourself preoccupied. So for our audience and for myself, because I've never actually met you all individually before other than through Instagram, I want to hear more about your musical journeys, kind of how you got started and what you're doing now with your music. I know it's quarantine, but I want to know kind of before where your music journey was at. So Becky, you're from Bellhoss. Can you tell us a little bit more about your project and kind of just more about it? We want to learn more about you.
Well, I've been writing music for a long time, but I kind of fell into doing it as more of a project with a moniker and everything, because I hated my full-time job at the time. I worked really hard to do the stereotypical, go to a lot of school and get a good job, and then it turned out being really unfulfilling, and I had a great friend who at the time told me, you know, you got to find something outside of work, more like outside of your office job.
Yeah.
That's fulfilling. Don't just lean on your job for that. And so I was like, well, fuck it. Oh, can I cuss?
It's okay. It's fine. It's totally fine. Don't worry. Everyone does that every day.
Well, I'm going to go to open mic.
No, it's okay. It's all good.
NEZI, this is good for us. The gates are open now. We can say whatever we want.
You're good.
Welcome. Great.
No, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
I'm the one who cusses when there's a child in the room, I swear. Every time.
No, don't worry about it. It's all good.
So I was like, well, I'm just gonna go to open mics, and then like I kept going and I met more people and doors opened, and then I was like, well, I'm playing these shows. I don't want to use my own name. Becky's not like the ideal stage name always. Just, you know, I mean, it's fine. It's like, I appreciate the name, but like also it's nice to have the separation.
Totally.
With kind of a band or like project name, so I can separate it as a project. My music's really personal for me. I wrote primarily, and I still write primarily at a journal, and process things emotionally. I guess I could, in terms of genre, it's probably under folk rock, which I looked out in Denver. That's kind of what all the genres are forever here, which is cool. Good and bad, you know.
Yeah. Pros and cons.
Yeah, everyone, like, I feel like everyone, if they start out here, they just kind of get slated under Americana until someone figures out they're like a rap musician or something. Oh, actually, something else other than Americana. Amazing. But so yeah, and it's been cool actually on the other side to be in quarantine and kind of have more space to experiment in a way on my own, be forced to do that, just because I overbooked myself and I just was playing too many shows and booking a ton of tours.
Yeah, which is great, but at the same time, yeah, it's important to realize the balance, like kind of NEZI was saying, for sure too. So Jesse, thank you for sharing, by the way, Becky. I want to hear more about your musical career. I know you play an instrument that not everyone plays typically. I myself do not play. Yeah, that little violin there. So can you tell us more about your musical journey?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a classical violinist. I started when I was 3 years old, and I went and did my degree here at the university in town in London. Nice. I mean, I was one of those kids that was doing classical, but on the side I was learning fiddle music and folk music, and in high school I got into jazz and was in a rock band and all this stuff, so trying to spread myself out around different genres. And kind of when I was close to finishing school, I didn't really have a plan. Like I had in my head, you know, I'm gonna try and hook in with some country artist and go on tour or something like that. But I got into theater by accident, into musical theater by accident. And what happened was I was actually playing just like as a side gig in London. I was playing for the Pit for like community theater shows, stuff like that. So I auditioned for the show and I thought I was playing in the Pit, but I showed up on day one. Like I got the job, and then I showed up on day one and was in the cast. And it was like a review show. So I was fiddling, but I was also singing and dancing. And on the end of day one, we had our first like choreography rehearsal. And I remember walking up to the director and being like, what is going on? What? I did not sign up for this. But what ended up happening is I kind of fell in love with it, and things started rolling with theater, and I've been doing it now for 10 years. Wow. And I do other things on the side as a freelancer. I play with a couple different bands. But for the most part, it's been theater. And it's kind of taken me from doing playing in pits and also being on stage to being an arranger and musical director as well. So I've recently, last summer, I did a brand new Canadian musical. I wrote I wrote the new version of it. Like the musical existed, and we rearranged it and rewrote the music, and I music directed and performed in that. And then I've got another one that was supposed to happen this summer, but we're not really sure what's going on. It's weird. It's a weird one because we're a tour, so it wasn't like housed in one theater. So they're still kind of being really positive, and we're just like, you know, if we can do it, then we're gonna call everyone in and start rehearsing and go for it. And then the other project that I had this summer was I have my own show called Fiddler on the Loose, which is of course a play off of Fiddler on the Roof, but it's really just like kind of a concert. It's that in between a concert and a musical theater production. So it's staged and scripted and choreographed, but we're not telling a story. It's just great songs, and kind of the theme is the violin. So we did everything kind of that has featured the violin over the years. And so I've done a few renditions of that. And this summer we were hired on, another theater bought it. We were supposed to do 10 weeks of it.
Oh my gosh.
Not anymore, but we're going to do it next year, which is going to be great.
Yeah, so, that's great to hear. Wow, that's incredible. That's like, you've got such an incredible career going so far for you.
The theater thing was really, really fun. And then the other band that I play with the most is there's a girl out of Toronto named Stacey K, who she's like a crossover soul pop, but with some hip hop. But then she also kind of she raps. She does like Busta Rhymes, like fast rapping in all her tunes. Nice. And so I've been playing with her for about 5 years. And it's like an awesome band to play in, because she does like rapping, but then we have tracks, but then we have a violin and a saxophone, and it's a really cool band. It's lots of fun. so much going on, but in the best way possible. That's so cool. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. I love to hear more about your guys' journeys. Now, NEZI, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey? I know you're in New York, you're near Brooklyn. So kind of tell us more about how you got started and where you're at with your music now.
So I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, actually. I know it's like a very random place to be from. But I have been singing my whole life. My mom actually was an R&B singer, because I sing R&B.
Nice.
And she was an R&B singer as well. So I kind of always looked up to her. And I used to be super shy with like sharing my talent, because I was just like, oh, I don't know if people like me. You know, as artists, we say like, okay, I'll do my thing. But like, you definitely you want to be likable, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So for a long time, I kind of was just in the shadows, and I always wanted to move to New York because I heard that's where the business is. And so as an artist, I felt like, okay, I know I want to sing, but how do I kind of expand my career? And there's not a market for music in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, like at all. So in my head, after I graduated undergrad, I was like, okay, how am I going to get to New York? So the way I got here was through a music business program at NYU. And so I got my master's in music business, because for me, it was important to learn about the business as an artist, to know kind of what I'm getting myself into, because I heard so many stories. And so got my degree in 2018. And so I've been like, I guess you could say, actively pursuing the career since 2016, and started like doing my music like actively in 2018. So I would say doing this for about professionally 2 years, but studying the music industry before. Now that I have 2 singles out, I have an EP that'll be coming out at the end of summer. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about my growth. I see the growth, and I'm just excited to connect with people and just to continue to expand on my journey.
Totally. Yeah. And that sounds like you're on your way there. It's only just a process of when we can actually be with people that you'll get there.
Right.
So thank you, everyone, for sharing. It was great to hear a little bit more. Now I want to talk about our topic of the day. So this topic of the day, our topics always change. So I just like to get different perspectives from you guys as musicians. So I want to chat about, the topic name is Let's Talk About How to Record Music at Home. So what I'm talking about when I say this, though, is basically how to be a DIY musician in your own home. So not necessarily just about recording, but how to be a DIY musician. So my first kind of question I want to open up to everybody is, have you ever tried making music at home? Why or why not, if you have or haven't? So let's start with Jessie. I don't like to always give it to the first. I don't like to give it to always Becky or something like that. I'll try and switch it up a little bit. So what do you think? Have you tried this before? Is this something you haven't delved into yet? Is it something you're looking into doing in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all kind of forced to do it right now a little bit. Like I was working on a video music project with a couple of people, and my one friend posted this thing, because we were all going nuts, like getting cameras and microphones and stuff. And my one friend posted a thing that's like my favorite quote of the whole quarantine. He was like, shout out to all the musicians who are all of a sudden required to know how to do high quality video and audio. Like, because it's true, you're seeing all these videos come out that people are doing, but if there's one where the video sucks, you're like, I don't even know how to edit that properly. And then like, you know, it's really like a strange time where everyone's really forgiving, but also very judgy at the same time. Like if the audio quality is a little bit off, people are like, this is garbage. Get yourself a better microphone. And it's like, it's insane. So, I mean, you know, we've all been forced to. Before this, not too much. I did a little bit of recording on my own, but it was always for someone else. Like, so I would just, you know, send a dry track or something like that. I work a lot on Fiverr, that website where you can get recordings for people. And I started that right before quarantine, and it's been really good, just sending out tracks to people and playing on people's stuff. For myself, now it's just about, well, NEZI was saying, like, you know, trying to stay creative all the time. And that's how it is right now. Like you wanted, if you go a couple days without putting out even just a little cover or a little clip of something, you feel like, I gotta do something else. I gotta be working on something. So yeah, there's, you know, recording from home, it's mostly, I don't know, I feel like it's a split. There's a lot of people who either want to do their original music and do their whole album sitting in their bedroom, or there's people who the stuff they want to do at home is more for like social media. And I think that's where I fall, is stuff I want to record at home is going to be posted up on Instagram or something. But if I want like a recording, like I want to go in and I want to do the studio and I want to have other people and stuff like that. But,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I agree too. I'm kind of that way too. I'm like, Instagram doesn't matter. So, Becky, I want to know from Bellhouse's perspective, what's kind of your guys' situation like? And I know right now it's a little bit different, but do you guys like to kind of DIY musician yourselves, or is it mainly just in the studio?
So that changed, and I did the same thing as y'all for starters, just kind of put out a couple of Instagram videos of like covers of my few friends' projects that are based in Denver, and like covered friends, and that was cool because the local indie station here has done a project, or like the scene here has done a project like that in the past. It's called Denver Does Denver, which is really neat, very community oriented. But then I was like, after about 5 covers, a couple people started to hint that they wanted me to cover their songs. And for me, it's like, if it becomes an obligation, for me, quarantine, I'm like, there's no rules. So I like, as soon as it became like an obligation where it feels like a job, I was like, I better not, because if I get to a certain point and someone's like, oh, she didn't cover my song, then, well, boo-hoo, we're not friends anymore. I like friends. But so I kind of did that for a bit, but I actually did something. I grabbed this. You guys probably saw me wander around as soon as you said home recording, because I did something that I've been wanting to do forever, which is I got myself a little analog Tascam.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's definitely my style as a DIY. So I've been kind of more in the holding myself up area of, I just recorded like I had a whole other EP recorded, but then doing like demos recorded, but then doing the live recording with the band became kind of an iffy thing. So now I have a whole other EP recorded that I'm gonna, like, I don't know, do like a matching film with like this 12 minutes of music and kind of explore other ways to share music, and make it, I love the visual sides of doing this. Like I love branding in terms of, you know, exploring visual art, and collaborating with visual artists, so I'm really excited about that. I actually mostly went more towards my other job, which is teaching English to immigrant and refugee adults. And so I'm actually going to end up working that job full time for quite a while, which I love. It's my other passion. I'm not maybe a usual musician. I'm not always full time. So right now gave me the opportunity to kind of explore that, but also put music in this really cool space of still exploring it and putting stuff out there. But, you know, performing is like one of the great joys of it for me, and I'm kind of bummed to not be able to do that. So But yeah, so I'll devote more time to my other thing too.
Totally. That's great to hear. I'm so happy to hear you're kind of exploring that route. And I think it's great too that we have this time off in a sense because yeah, everyone's learning new skills and just kind of pushing themselves to places they may never have done because they just simply don't have the time, right? So now NEZI, what's kind of your experience like with home recording? Are you kind of a more strictly in studio or do you like to explore kind of different instruments or different recording pieces at home?
For me, when I first recorded, it was actually in a professional studio. And sometimes, like, I don't know about you all, but like the studio sets a different vibe than when you're at home. So like the vibe is really different in a good way, obviously, when I'm in the studio. Just because like a lot of studios, you can really like set the mood, have the lights right, you know, really just make that space for yourself. And actually my engineer, she would work at a studio and she has a home studio. So it was just easier at that time to just like, oh, my engineer is like there, just have her like track my vocals and, you know, it just kind of an easier and quicker process. Right. But it wasn't until honestly this quarantine that made me realize like, oh, well, I can't get to my engineer when I want to. Got to start doing this myself. And so earlier in the year, luckily, I started learning to record myself in Logic. And so it kind of made the transition a little easier instead of me like, oh no, what am I gonna do? She's not here. But I've been recording myself a lot more, whether it's like cover and, or just like my own original things. Right. And now I'm just in the phase of trying to set my like bedroom where I recorded, like the mood for it to give that like in studio feel. And also I've just been trying to learn new things. Like the guitar is something I just started to pick up. I know a little bit of the piano, but I've always been interested in the guitar. So I've been trying to like learn the basics of the guitar, trying to write every day. And like you said, Millie, like this kind of forces you to learn a new skill maybe that you didn't have time to. And so I'm just trying to utilize this time to like learn something or sharpen like a skill, like something for sure for me that I've been sharpening is my writing skills. So I read a lot of poetry. And so that kind of helps fuel my writing skills and the way I write my music. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad you're all kind of delving into that world of technology. It can be difficult sometimes, but I'm glad to hear you're all kind of trying it out. Now, my next question is kind of an opinion-based question, but do you think that with the age of technology that we're in, where everything's so heavily into our phones and even just recording itself being so technological, if you will, do you think that singers should still be recorded in professional environments, or do you think singers should try and kind of be more of that at-home SoundCloud singer now because it's so accessible and so much cheaper? I kind of want to know your thoughts and opinions on this. Becky, why don't we start with you? If you can let us know kind of what you think about this.
Do what you want. I think that like some people have really high quality equipment and that's amazing, but I think, you know, everyone, I'm not an obnoxious businessy person. Like if your branding is all about that high quality stuff, cool. If it's not, then do that. Like that's what I'm about. I don't know. I'm very much a DIY person. I love the hissy noise of home recordings. I love the cassette tapes that are coming back with a lot of merch. But like the cool thing about technology is you can have access to the higher quality equipment and the higher quality technology. You can learn this on your own. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say than, yeah, all of it. Yeah, if it's good, I'll listen.
For sure. Jesse, what do you think with technology kind of advancing so quickly? What's your kind of opinions on this?
I think that everyone needs to have an understanding of it, because even if you, and this is something that I'm finding too, that there are things that that I'm learning a lot more about. Like I knew some stuff before going into quarantine, and now it's just I have a couple good buddies that went to recording school and stuff, and I'm drilling them with questions constantly. It's like it was like really echoey for some reason. But no, I've been learning some more stuff, and I think that's a good thing, whether you're doing a recording at home or whether you go into the studio, because when you go in and you're listening to your own voice and the guy says, do you like it? you can actually, instead of just saying no, you can say, I actually want it to sound a little more MIDI, or like I want like I'd like it to sound like it's in a bigger room, and just having those little understandings, even if it's not your path to be the expert, then I think that's really good. And I agree with Becky that you know, if you want to do the home thing, then do the home thing. But in the same way, if you want to do the professionally produced thing, then you have to use your resources, right? So it would be the same thing if you were at home and you played a little bit of the guitar, but you wanted a really good guitar lick on it. You wouldn't do it yourself. You'd source it out, right? So it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you want something that you just know you can't do or you're not interested in doing, then you outsource it. But if it's something that, you know, you're interested and you want to just get better and better, then go for it. But I do think everyone needs some understanding of it. You have to. And this is really proving that. It's proving it to students, it's proving it to teachers, it's proving it to artists, it's proving it to singers, musicians alike, like everyone. It's like, oh, I should have known about how to do this. I should know how to start the session in GarageBand or Logic or whatever it is. I should have Logic. I should have, you know,
have it downloaded.
I should have a microphone. I should, you know, it's really kind of forcing us to know that. So,
totally. Yeah. I 100% agree with what you said. And I love that you mentioned, like, people should know, like even teachers, for example, they're supposed to teach children kind of the new ways of learning. And if they don't even know technology, it's like, what example does that set, right? So I think it's a great point. And I love that you mentioned, because I've had that experience where you're in a studio and you're listening to your brand new song. They're like, so what do you think? And you're like, I don't like it, but I don't know how to describe why I don't like it. And I don't know how to tell you that I don't like it, because I don't know what terms, like you're saying, Jesse, to tell you to. And it's such a hard thing to relay. And I think the only way I've had a positive experience with that is when I've been able to show songs and been like, see what I'm talking about in this song? And then they're like, oh yeah, well it's this term. Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. But if you can skip that step, my gosh, you save yourself so much time, right?
Oh yeah.
So NEZI, I saw you kind of shaking your head and be like, yeah, I totally agree. So what do you kind of think about that? What kind of you have to add to that?
I'll lead with what Jesse was saying. It just depends. But also, I do agree with him in the fact that at this point, now that we're in quarantine especially, it's so important to know how to track your own vocals just as a singer. And like Becky said, if that sound you like, you know, the kind of home sound feel is your thing, then go for it. But I know for me, I think there's a misconception thinking that, oh, if you record at home, you'll get this, like, it's not of quality. And you definitely can have the same gear and equipment at home as an actual, you know, professional studio has. Because I think some people think that, oh, to get the quality sound, I have to be in a studio, a professional studio. It's like, you definitely don't have to be in a professional studio. You cut the cost when you're recording at home. Something I've just realized, like, I spent so much money last year, like, going to the studios. And I was just like, never again. I can get the same quality at home. And for an engineer also, it's like, if you can get a clear take, an engineer should be able to mix it well. It's all about just getting a clear take. And so, yeah, I feel like you can do it at home. You can get that quality sound at home. I do think it's very important as, like Jesse was saying, whether you're a musician, whether you're a singer, to be able to track your vocals and to articulate what you need to get done. Because at one point in time, I was that musician, I was that artist that was just like, oh, you know, I wanted to sound more like echoey, and it's like, it's you know, so like we have to understand the terminology and ways to articulate what we're needing. Because I was, like I said, just shameless of that. I was that artist that was just like, oh yeah, let me show you this song. Look hear what she's doing. Just like, it made it easier once I started learning the terminology, understanding my voice, and just understanding the sound I want to get out.
Absolutely. I think a lot of singers, maybe they won't admit it, but I think they've all been through what we've been through, NEZI, for sure. So I want to know what you think and what your opinions are of the disadvantages of recording at home. So obviously, there's some really great positives to doing it. It's cheaper, but I want to know what doesn't work for you, or what you think makes it difficult for people who want to record at home. So Becky, can you start this one off again, if that's okay, on maybe some disadvantages you think of recording at home, because you've had a little bit of experience with it so far?
Well, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to stay positive because I generally don't being by myself forever and ever. I think that's probably the main disadvantage for me. I get a lot of out of affirmation and reassurance from other people. I like because I didn't really plan to be a professional musician. I enjoy performing and running away and never hearing that song ever again. So it's hard to hear it over and over and overanalyze it and go to the same emotional space that I was in when I wrote it. And so I watched a lot of David Lynch and really put myself in a weird headspace to prepare. And so that part is hard. The emotional part, I think, for me.
Yeah, for sure. NEZI, what do you think about this? Do you think that, like, what are some disadvantages for you personally of why you wouldn't want to record at home?
I think for me, because when I started recording, I started with an engineer. Like my first experience wasn't like, oh, let me try this out at home by myself. Like most people, honestly, you try experiment on your own. I actually started off with an actual engineer. She's amazing. And so when I was forced to kind of do it myself, it was just like, if Alexis was here, I wouldn't have to do this. So it was kind of me being lazy, but also just I feel like I was kind of spoiled in the beginning because she was always there just, helping me do that. And so once we're in quarantine and I can't see her, it kind of was just like, oh, I have to do this myself. It's going to take a little longer. I don't really like doing this. But because I'm just like Becky, I start overthinking and start thinking oh, I don't want to hear this over and over. Even when even if I see a video of myself or hear myself, just no!
Make it stop.
I don't want to listen to it again. And so just having her there kind of just doing it in real time and faster than me made it just spoiled me. And so I guess just to recap, my disadvantage is having to do it myself. It sounds bad, but
yeah, no, that makes sense. I think, and it depends on what you're interested in, right? Some people are just purely interested in having someone else do it. They just want to come in and sing. Maybe their thing is more the music video creation, or maybe they like the choreography part of it better. But some people, I know lots of musicians that love the recording process. But to me, I'm just like, oh, that makes my head hurt thinking about it. But I'm sure I could do it. But I just, it's too many things. Another thing you have to think about. For sure. What do you think, Jesse? What are some disadvantages in your opinion?
So I think let's assume that when we're talking about home recording, we're not talking about those people that have all the professional gear at their house and have the space and have and I shouldn't say professional gear, but the highest end, what you're going to get in the studio. And we're not talking about someone who is an engineer and is just stuck at home, right? Because I think that in itself is a disadvantage, just not having that person there who's the expert to tell you what. And it's not even that there's ever a right and wrong, but there is a good baseline to start from to go for experimentation. To get to that baseline takes a little bit longer when you're by yourself, because you have to do a ton of research. Okay, what kind of microphone do I need? What kind of interface do I need? What DAW should I use? And then that's all just to get to step one, right? And even then, so then I have to know how to record in. I have to know kind of the base of where I want to set my EQ and my reverb and stuff. And now I can start experimenting. Right. And so I think that's where it gets tricky. Of course, you can start experimenting from before all that, but it's going to probably take you a little bit longer to get to something that you like. Just because if you're using, I don't know, a 57 on your voice instead of a condenser when you're sitting at home, you're going to pick up different things. And it's not that it's going to be bad or wrong, but you might go oh, this doesn't sound where I want it to. How do I get there? And then same thing with experimenting with mic placement and stuff and all that. Do I need a pop filter? Do I need a shield? Do I need, what do I need to do? And if you walk into a studio, they've got that for you. They've got the mic where they think is going to sound the best. And then you can go listen and go, oh, let's try something else. Let's try it a little further away. And you have that room for creativity without having to worry about all the stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then once you have your track in, the disadvantage is is I do the same thing as you guys. I doubt myself like crazy. So like I send something out and like sit there and EQ. The other thing that I do is I play a lot of electric violin. And so the processing for that can get really tedious because the pickups that they use are not always the best.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I sit there and spend hours and hours and hours making a tone, listening to it, headphones through the speakers, playing it along. I love it. It's great. Then I go the next day and I listen back and I'm like, God, that tone sucks. And then it's just like you're constantly doubting yourself and not knowing where to go from there, right? So I think that's the disadvantage is just not having those basics necessarily laid out for everyone. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's such a great point. I know myself, I was recording an album in December and I was having such a hard time getting into what I was doing. And the producer was like, he's like, you focus better when you close your eyes and when you're concentrating. I can see it as soon as you close your eyes, you're in tune and you're like rhythmically doing a lot better than when your eyes are open and you're like trying to concentrate on whatever. So he was like, I'm just going to leave the room. I'm going to hit record. I'm just going to let you do your thing and it'll sound great. So like you said, Jesse, like just having that second kind of opinion of someone else to be like, no, it sounds great. Or like when you're all by yourself, of course you focus and fixate on those little tiny things, right? So I think it's great to have that. We have time for one more question here. So I want to know just basic advice. What basic advice would you give to an artist who is deciding to record their music on their own at home? What would you tell them? Jesse, can we start off with you?
I think the best advice is to not overthink, but we're all artists, so that's a big no because we're all gonna do it.
It's never gonna happen.
You know, I think it's just everyone should get a not entry level but step up level microphone, audio interface, and know how to use them properly, plugging them in. And again, if you have to ask or look it up on YouTube or whatever, it's really easy to find that information. But everyone should own that gear no matter what, whether you play an instrument or you're singing or whatever it is. You should know how to enter a track into even just GarageBand, right? Like just firing it into GarageBand. You should know how to start it and set the click and put in the track that you're playing along to, and just those basic things. Everyone needs to know how to do that. Anything outside of that you don't know what to do, if you're interested in it, then dive into it and look it up. If you're not interested in it, use a resource and ask someone you know, because we're all artists that are surrounded by artists, and it's really easy to find someone who knows, right? Especially nowadays, you can go on a Facebook group. Like I'm in a Facebook group for a certain type of pedal that I use, and if there's any questions, like I'm just on there like, how do I do this? And 14 people respond right away. That's awesome. So use your resources of your experts that are around you. And again, that's though if you're not interested. I know for me, I'm not like someone who's super interested in learning how to really do audio engineering. It's just not, I want to know the basis of it, but it's not where my passion is. So I'm never going to like go to school for that or something. And so I'm going to always ask my friends who did that, because they love it. They love sitting there and listening to the same note over and over again, trying 40 different plugins on it. Great.
I hate if that's how you want to spend your day, then that's great.
So that's my advice is get that baseline, know how to use your stuff, and then from that point on, either dive into it or ask. It's really easy.
Absolutely. Now, Becky, what advice would you give for recording at home if you're just starting out?
I would say it's great to know all this stuff. I'm still very beginning. I don't have all that equipment. I have my Tascam, and it's hissy, and I'm experiencing the joy of experimentation and seeing what happens. So I definitely support the using your resources and knowing what you're doing. But I would say, on the other hand, be patient with yourself. Be forgiving. Maybe something came out the way it did. It's a happy accident, and it's better than you thought. You give it a rest, and you come back to it, and you're like, oh, well, that's actually nice.
I love the Bob Ross quote, just a happy little accident.
Yeah, exactly. Because for me, I was very discouraging with myself. I feel like NEZI, I tended to stay in the shadows. for a long time and didn't have a lot of imposter syndrome about being a musician. And I think being patient with where you're at and not being an automatic expert is also super important. I think it is important to have that expertise and have be able to provide a good quality product, but I'm also a believer in beautiful unfound little diamonds in the rough.
Totally. Absolutely. And how about you, NEZI? What's kind of something you would give for advice for someone who's just starting out on home recording?
Yeah, I would say to have fun. Because like we are all just saying, we kind of take ourselves so serious to where it's like you suck the fun out of it, you get stressed, you overthink. So I would definitely just say have fun and enjoy the process. That's something as artists, sometimes we want to be further along. We're like, oh, I want to know how to do this already. Why can't I track my vocals? Why can't I do this? And it's like, it's a part of the process. And like Jessie was saying, if you need to outsource and ask for help, do that. There's so many resources on YouTube. There's so many resources. Like you said, we're in a hub of we have friends that are artists or a producer or an engineer. So it's definitely ask. So I guess my advice just overall would be have fun and enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm. Love that. That's amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. That was actually our last question for the day, so we're out of time. But we're so lucky to have had you all on today. If you guys are at home watching this roundtable with Vienna Whyte on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, and hit the bell button because we post 2 shows daily, Monday to Friday. So there's lots of content for you to catch up on. If you want to hear this conversation on Spotify, just search up the Vienna Whyte podcast to start listening. Before we head out, could I get you all one more time, to say your stage name and your social media of where our audience can find you? So I'm going to start with you, Becky. Can you let us know where we can find Bellhoss?
Bellhoss is on Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, Twitter. Oh, don't go on Twitter ever. Bandcamp, all the places, and it's just Bellhoss.
Perfect.
And you're spelling it out because it's HOSS. A lot of people say HO.
Yeah. Thank you. And Jessie, can you sign yourself out?
Yeah, I'm Jesse Grandmont, and you can find me on Facebook. I'm gonna have some stuff on Spotify coming out in the fall, which is gonna be great. And then most of the stuff that I do is on Instagram, and that's at Jay's Violinist, which is JAIZE Violinist.
Perfect. Thank you. And NEZI, can you sign yourself out?
Hey everyone, it's NEZI. You can find me on all platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at NEZI Music. I know that you're going to spell it out, but it's NEZI Music. And so, yeah, I just dropped some recent content on Instagram, so check it out.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Again, it was great having you all on today. I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.